We are live. Welcome to the NBA Live Before Lock Show, Nuggets Lakers edition. And I hope you liked the last two showdown breakdowns because Rinpak and I are back. Ryan, what's going on, man? How's this lovely NFL Sunday going for you?
It was going all right. I mean, until Tyrod Taylor somehow hurt his ribs during pregame warm-ups, and we see a new rookie phenom, Justin Herbert, look amazing for the Chargers. So besides that, NFL's NFL. It's its own random beast. I'm more excited to talk about the game 2 of the Western Conference Finals with you.
You and me both. I'm excited to talk about it too. We are not going all the way up until lock today. So we're going to get out of here right around 7:20, and we're going to send this over to the NFL guys so they can do the NFL Live Before Lock show. But I think we'll have more than enough time over this next 35 minutes to get through all of the goods on this bad boy. So first and foremost, shout out to No House Advantage for being the presenting sponsor of this show. Appreciate having them. We're going to touch on some props as we go. And as you get in the door, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when all of our content goes live. Subscribe to our podcast feeds. We have them for every individual sport along with a giant catch-all so you don't have to miss anything. If you love seeing our gorgeous faces, we'd love to see you on YouTube or Periscope or Twitch. If you just want to hear us, which I would understand because sometimes what I've got going on right here isn't all that pretty, listen to the podcast, and then you only have to hear my voice, which is oddly worse than my face. But that's neither here nor there. What we need to do is talk a little basketball. 2 nights ago, Michael Porter Jr. was essential, and I never would have saw that coming at his price tag. Let's start with him. $12K in the captain spot, $8K in the utility spot. We have him projected for just 2.5% ownership. Is there any chance that Michael Porter Jr. does it again?
Well, I believe Michael Porter Jr. played all of the fourth quarter in that blowout run.
Yes.
As I had a nice little lineup sitting there in first for all of the fourth quarter until he picked up the double-double with 90 seconds to go. And there you had it, the ultimate showdown tilt right in front of as the game closed. I don't expect him to do that again. I mean, they would have to get waxed again by 30 points, which is completely on the table. The Lakers are that good. And shout out to Dwight Howard, who looked like Orlando Dwight for a good 6 minutes on the court there, bodying Nicole Yokic throughout all of the first half. And he got the start in the second half. The Lakers did say they're going to start McGee in game 2 again. But going back to Michael Porter, no, I don't think he will be essential. And I think people will notice looking at that he won people the showdown in game 1, and I think that ownership will be a little higher than we have projected for currently.
Yeah, so I ran my sim before we got started. Michael Porter Jr. came up as the optimal captain just 0.8% of the time, came up as an optimal utility play 5.6% of the time, so that is slightly north of the projected ownership. Here's what you need. Anytime that he was in the utility spot in my optimal sim, he scored, on average, 34 fantasy points. I have him projected for 22. So you really need everything to go right because of his price tag. And that's exactly what you got out of him 2 nights ago. He got into the low to mid 30s. I can't remember what it was off the top of my head, but somewhere into the 30s. That is that has to happen. Otherwise, someone slightly lower than him is going to take him over.
Yeah, and I just don't think there's more outcomes of him, like I said in the game 1. I just think there's more outcomes of him failing than getting there. As you saw, for him to get there, he had to play all of that fourth quarter, which is very unlikely. Personally, I thought he'd get pulled a lot earlier. But Malone just stuck with him throughout all of the fourth quarter. But let's see what happens in game 2. I'm curious what adjustments Malone can even try to attempt to make on Anthony Davis. There's no one on the team that can really limit him by any means.
No.
So
to be fair, there's no one on most teams that could limit Anthony Davis, so Malone shouldn't feel too bad.
Yeah, and it's like essentially instead of those guys doing 36 minutes of cardio, how can they really put up a real match against the Lakers is what he has to really figure out. But in terms of let's get to Anthony Davis.
Let's do it.
Who is my favorite player on the slate yet again. I like him superior to everyone by quite a bit, just like I did in the first game. And he put up the most quiet, I think, 37 points last time out. So you can expect something in that range again. Wouldn't shock me, if not more, if this game is close. They're doing quite a bit of an effort of just getting him involved because they know that is the true mismatch in this matchup against the Nuggets. So I like Anthony Davis, and yet again, he's probably going to be my favorite captain.
I cannot disagree with you. Basically, LeBron and AD came out as equals from a captain perspective. 23.4% for LeBron, 23.2% AD. So basically a coin flip. They're both actually owned in the captain spot a bit less than that. So I love getting to LeBron and or AD at captain. Same sort of story for the utility spot. I'm happy to get to either one of those guys. Either 96 to 97 fantasy points is what you're looking for out of LeBron and AD in the captain spot. That's a big number, but those are the types of guys that can hang that kind of fantasy point number. You prefer AD to LeBron, though? You like that $600 savings as well?
Yeah, and I think I could do some things with that $600 yet again on today's slate. I mean, if you watch that first game, you just saw like how dominant he was throughout all three quarters that he was on there, and like it wouldn't shock me if he puts up a higher stat line and now come with more fantasy points this time around.
So we've got the two LA guys at the top. We've got Nicole Yokic priced just behind Anthony Davis, $600 behind him in the captain spot. And then we take a pretty sizable jump back to Jamal Murray at $14,700. I do like Murray, but I think that he is properly owned at captain. The guy that I think is kind of interesting, Nicole Yokic, is the second most owned captain in our last ownership run, 19.4%. He only came up as my optimal captain 14% of the time. I'm not really loving the idea of getting to Jokic. I think he's just priced too close to Anthony Davis and LeBron James, and I have them both projected pretty significantly ahead of him. I'm guessing you're not all that interested in Jokic today, at least from a captain perspective.
Yeah, for me, I mean, it's Nikola Jokic. He obviously has that upside. It's just that I'm buying into this Dwight Howard, just like kind of like limiting him, embodying him. They're like annoying him throughout. Like they're not letting Nikola be Nikola.
Yeah.
And if he's not going to do that, he's not going to hit that triple double upside, and he's not going to get anywhere close to that. So no, I'm actively going to be under the field on the captain spot on Nikola Jokic today. We are on the exact same page, and that's probably a good thing. Two geniuses here on the exact same page. Let's start with a prop then. Anthony Davis, since you do like him in the captain spot, 37.5 points plus rebounds. How's that feeling for you? That's a no house advantage prop. You should go to No House Advantage to check them out. Could you repeat it again? Points plus rebounds? What was
37.5.
Yeah, let's take the over. I'll take the over. I like him quite a bit again. Yeah, and
I like
if
it.
you saw what he did in game one, he will shatter that. So.
Yeah, I don't see what changes. That game went pretty much exactly as I expected, other than the fact that I didn't expect Dwight Howard to be such an irritant to Jokic. Like Jokic was clearly just frustrated by it. I didn't expect him to get into his head as much as he did, but he definitely did. So yeah, I'm totally with you. I will take the over. Let's go ahead and see what I actually have it projected for, though, because that's also interesting to me. Points plus rebounds, AD, 40 on the dot. So, yeah, I'm going to be happily taking the 37.5 point over. That would actually rank pretty highly. An additional 2.5 points plus rebounds. That's a nice one.
For what it's worth, I was correct on Kentavious Caldwell-Pope's over 1.5 3-pointers. He hit 3. So
there you go. He did look good.
Yeah.
Well, he looked, good for KCP at the very least.
Yes.
I don't want to give him too much credit. Also, perfect opportunity now that people have started to trickle in. We got about 300 in here right now. How about you guys go ahead and hit that thumbs up? Only 46 likes. Let's see if we can get that number to 100. I think that would be a really nice spot to have. So 100 likes, 300 viewers. That's what I'm looking for. If you needed to take a captain today that wasn't one of the big four, who would it be?
The The big four. So you're calling Nicole Yokic and Jamal Murray big in this series? No. Now, for me, it's really hard to find captain lineups without the two studs in LA and LeBron and AD.
Chat saying Dwight. Chat saying Rondo. A lot of Rondo. 3 straight Rondos, I might add.
For me, I think I'm going to take a shot on Dwight. Dwight played. He's 16 minutes and obviously put up 23 and 3/4 fantasy points. He would have played more if the game was close, in my opinion. And Nikola didn't come out in the fourth quarter. He got his 4th foul in the third quarter and didn't see the court again, even in blowout run, because he did start that second half. And if that's a trend of him starting the second half, I'm going to like Dwight. I'm going to take a shot at captain at Dwight. He only picked up 3 rebounds. He did pick up 4 stocks. I don't expect the 4 stocks to be irregular, but I do expect a few more rebounds.
Dwight is the current most owned captain that isn't a top 4 guy, 5.7%. So I don't want it to seem like he's chalky or anything, because he's not, but 5.7%. He only showed up in my optimal captain spot 1.6% of the time. When he did, he averaged 26.5 points in the captain spot.
Okay.
I don't know what to do with that sort of information. That's just what it was. Average score of my Sims, or average score of the Sims, 254. Average salary spent, 49,600. I'm not surprised. I mean, you're going to be using a lot of those top couple guys, and at that point in time, you're just sort of rotating around some of the scrubs at the bottom, so to speak.
Yeah, and like Dwight Howard, they didn't raise his price up enough for what his potential role could be in this series, in my opinion, just in the utility portion. He's priced at $2,800. So that's, I think, obviously he's going to be much, much more popular than he was in the first game. And an interesting pivot, as ridiculous as it sounds, I would be willing to take like every 10 lineups maybe with Dwight Howard, maybe having a JaVale McGee, just like take your Dwight out and put in JaVale McGee, because JaVale McGee still can be a little more like responsive on the court, in the sense he was just like lost when he was on there, and then they just yanked him and he played in the blowout run. He just didn't look ready for the matchup for Nikola while Dwight was ready to go.
Yeah, he showed up as a top utility play for me 16% of the time. We have him projected for 17% ownership, so I think that all looks sort of exactly right for someone like JaVale. It doesn't feel all that great, especially after his first run, but chalk Dwight in the utility spot, 48% projected ownership right now. To me, that's a little high. I understand why it's happening, and he's certainly one of the more optimal plays at the bottom. I'd feel a little bit more comfortable maybe spending a couple extra going $600 more and going to Caruso at slightly less ownership, just to try to be a little bit different in this showdown slate. But I mean, it's pretty hard to want to get away from Dwight, because I wouldn't be surprised if he used every single foul today.
Yeah, definitely. It wouldn't shock me at all. And he I was just like really impressed to see the impact he had, the energy he had to get off. That's why I really like Dwight. And in terms of like, I think at that price tag, he doesn't need to do all that much to pay it off.
No.
Also, so it's a safe play, as ridiculous as it sounds. A backup center on this latest, I would consider Dwight safe. Options to pivot off Dwight. I mean, people could probably consider 2K Torrey Craig, or if you have $200 more to go up to Monty Morris. Would you be willing to do those pivots?
Yeah, I would. And again, it's not that I don't like Dwight. He's clearly a part of everything that I would be doing, but I have Monty Morris a little bit behind him, actually, coming out of the sim, but he's at less than half of the ownership. That's in a showdown slate. If you have two guys that are comparable to getting into an optimal lineup, getting the guy that's less than half of the ownership is really, really important to limit your dupes. I did want to point out, since I assume you'll want this information, when Dwight was in my optimal in the utility spot, he only averaged 15.2 fantasy points. So it doesn't take a lot for Dwight to be the guy that you would, or a guy that you would need at least in the utility spot. 91% of the captains are AD, LeBron, Jokic, or Murray in those scenarios.
Yeah, so
that's a lot.
He just makes things fit, and that's what you just need. Like yesterday, I think Enes Kanter was $1,000, and he was just fine getting you 8 fantasy points, and it worked out. So, that's how these showdown slates on DraftKings work out. On FanDuel, it's a different story, and it's really important to just nail down the top scorer. And for me, it would be Anthony Davis over there. Would be by far my favorite MVP.
We actually had people talking, what the optimal construction for the amount of guys on each team would be. I see 4 Lakers, 2 Nuggets. Antoine Murphy also responded with 3 and 3 is solid. 3.4 Lakers per optimal lineup is what I got. 2.6 Nuggets. So slight lean to the Lakers in terms of the full roster construction for DraftKings. Is there any chance you want to go all the way to the bottom and get a little Torrey Craig? Flat 2K.
It's just that he doesn't have that Dwight Howard upside. So, I think I'll sprinkle in some. But it's not like I'm actively trying to get him in like I was actively trying to get in Dwight Howard in game 1. But the salary also does make things work. So It's a tough choice. I think I'll sprinkle some in. I'm not going to fully fade him because Torrey Craig does have that once in a blue moon upside. So if it's going to happen in game 2, I'll take my chance.
YouTube chat a little rowdy right now. Dave Chappelle said that he always wanted a guy like Mac Mittens to be around for his stuff, but it's been abundantly clear to me that it's not really fun having Mac Mittens around at all. So there's that. That's a joke that 6 people will get, but that's fine by me. 360 people and 104 likes, so that looks pretty good. Let's hit on another prop courtesy of No House Advantage, where you guys should go sign up, use the promo code Awesemo, get yourselves a $20 free play on your first deposit, and then refer somebody so that you can get yourself another $5. 75% full in the $1,500 showdown contest on No House Advantage. $750 to first, but they're still short 35 spots. So if you're looking to get in, now is definitely the time to do it. What else can we hit on? It's weird. The mid-tier is just the Michael Porter Jr., Gary Harris, Rajon Rondo section, all under 10% ownership. These guys are just too expensive, right? That's a really difficult section of the roster to get to when you have those big 4 dudes above them. Do you like anything in that Porter, Harris, Rondo trio?
Probably just, I would probably in the highest upside in terms of just a floor and I feel comfortable with is probably Rondo. 6,800. He's also cheaper than Harris by $600, and he's also cheaper than how much cheaper is he than Porter? He's cheaper than $1,200 than Porter. Yeah. So I'd definitely prefer Rondo in that situation.
I also prefer Rondo in that situation, but I don't think that I'd be getting to that range really at all. I have Rondo behind the public ownership. I do have Porter a little bit ahead of it, but even still, it's just, he's like a 4% guy. It's not all that great. The sim is honestly running pretty lockstep for me to public ownership. Other than I do think Alex Caruso going slightly underrepresented. I got to hit you with one more prop though. Who would be a fun guy to look at? Let's touch on Porter since he went crazy. 10.5 points. That just feels like such a low number, but I clearly understand why it's happening.
Yeah, for that to happen, I'd like the over there. He did play he got his regular rotation and whatnot in that first half. I'll take the over there, but he just doesn't do much in terms of peripherals. So he will get rebounds in blowout run when Jokic isn't on the court, which he showed. But I just don't. I know he did it last game, but for that to happen last game, a lot of things went in his favor in terms of the game blowing out, getting all of the fourth quarter blowout run. And then he only got there just in the last few seconds. So
there's no way that whatever that person just said is true. I got to look this up. That can't be. There's no way that Michael Porter Jr.'s assist prop is 5.5. That can't be right. Can it?
No
I don't
way.
even. He doesn't even have an assist prop.
He doesn't pass the ball.
Yeah. 6.5 rebounds and 1.5 threes made. Those are the other props for Michael Porter Jr. Jokic's scoring prop, 22.5. Not loving it here. Not loving it.
Yeah, Nicole, he's just going to struggle in this matchup. He put up 21 points last time in 25 minutes, but that's because he had a pretty amazing first quarter, and he cooled off significantly after that. Solely because Dwight Howard checked into the game and bothered him. But no, it's tough. I think it's a very good line, so I think I'd potentially even consider going the under there, but very hesitantly.
Yeah, it's not fun to fade someone like that. Ryan Bender says, don't sleep on Jokic. And it's not so much that we're sleeping on him. It's just he's priced too comparably to two guys that are just better than him.
Mm-hmm. What do you have Jokic projected for in terms of just fantasy points?
49.3.
Okay.
And I have AD at 54, LeBron at 56.3. So.
Okay.
Yeah, just kind of.
Yeah.
Kind of ends it right there. Let's see. Most exposed players right now. I mean, should be no surprise. AD at the top end. I am getting to a bit of Jamal Murray, but the Jokic captain fade is real, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not trying to get any Jokic captain. I just think Anthony Davis and LeBron are just better options than him today.
I'm going to put this out there right now, people. You should be playing Alex Caruso tonight. That's the captain you should have. And that captain is our captain at Awesemo.com. So,
yeah. So, well, is there something that you think is that just taking a low owned captain spot and just hoping to spike an upside? Is that just the reason behind that?
Let's see. If I had 150 lineups going right now, how many lineups I don't have a single captain that isn't one of LeBron, AD, Jokic, or Murray in my top 150 ranked lineups. Yeah. So
yeah,
might be a little tough.
I agree. I know that might be tough. Caruso and he's in that Monty Morris range. I do prefer Caruso to Monty Morris just because
I like them both a lot.
Yeah.
Well, a lot as in relative to public ownership. I think that's the place to get different. I honestly think that I'm going to put it out there. I don't want to because you were all over the Dwight run in game one, and that worked out tremendously. I think Dwight's the fade in this game.
Yeah, it could be. If he's going to be 80% owned and he picks up 5 fouls real quick, he fouls at a rapid rate nowadays. So it definitely could happen. But I just think there's just more ways for Dwight to succeed than fail in this matchup. So that's my reason just to be all over Dwight yet again.
Oh, the news god just dropped this into chat. James White, running back for the Patriots, parents were in a car accident earlier today. Dad did not survive. It's looking like his mom did not survive as well. His father was a captain with the Miami-Dade Police Department. Inactive today. That's super sad.
That's sad. That is very sad. Oh man, that's tough. Just to
That's a bummer, news god. I don't want that news.
Yeah. Well, thoughts and prayers out to James White's family. That's tough.
Yeah. Don't really have anything else to add. It's just saw El Negro Loco post it. Quite the bummer. It's hard to talk about NBA Showdown after that, but we've got 13 more minutes until we seed this show over to the NFL Showdown style. Go check out my NFL Showdown video if you want an individual breakdown, but those guys will break it down all the way up until lock. Yeah, if I go to 150, most exposed guys that aren't the top four are Caruso and Monty Morris. I think the easiest place to get a slightly different lineup construction is to actually not have Dwight Howard. Do you think that ownership on Howard at the utility spot is reasonable? 47.6? Think that's about right?
Yeah, I think that's just about right. I do think it will be a little higher when the game ends up, by the time contest starts. Like I said, he just makes everything fit. You put Dwight in the utility, everything's just click, 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 and I like my lineup. But there's a player who I think we've not mentioned today that could go under the radar. It's Paul Millsap. I know he just is not good fantasy wise, but he's now 5,200,
Yeah.
and he plays. He's on there for his defense. Malone trusts him. I'm going to take a few shots with him because he just falls in that weird price range. Also, there's like no one really around him. I mean, he's about $800 more than KCP and Danny Green, and then it's just him.
You want the hot take? Because I'm with your hot take a little bit. Paul Millsap in the sim of the non-top 4 guys. Paul Millsap showed up 5th in the captain spot, 5.6% of the time, slightly north of his utility ownership, 25% of the time in the utility spot. The problem is, when he showed up in the captain spot, he averaged 46 fantasy points. That seems like, well, just seems like a lot. I mean, that's 30 DK points regular. And you get obviously the 1.5 point or 1.5x bonus for being in the captain spot. I feel like a 30-point Paul Millsap day is going to be like something weird had to happen. Like Jokic got hurt.
Yeah, that's definitely something weird is going to happen. It's possible. It's Millsap. He could rack up a few steals as this game gets a little sloppy, and he's on there to play his defense. He picks up like a quiet double-double. It can happen. So it's just like going through these showdown slates and single game slates. You just have to each lineup has to have its story. It's a lot easier to do it on a 1-game slate. So, and sometimes your story can be crazy, and that's what it needs to be to take it down solo. That's kind of the only way to really find a solo win. I think if you were to predict it perfectly, I believe PJ Dozier would have gotten in there last time. So that's how off the field sometimes you might need to get on a showdown slate if you want to take that risks to win solo.
Let's see what was actually in the lineups when Paul Millsap was in the captain spot, if you're trying to get weird. I only had 28 of those types of lineups show up when I ran the sim. Most popular guys in the utility when Paul Millsap as a captain wins for you. Anthony Davis, shocker. LeBron James, shocker. Both of those guys north of 80%. Jokic in 75% of the lineup. So you're going to need 2 out of those 3. Jamal Murray in 40%. Alex Caruso in 30%. Oof, man, that one just gets dicey. You're going to need 3 of the studs plus Millsap. You got to get the right stud out of your lineup to pull that one off, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Do you have McGee and Monty Morris straight up for you? Is it close? And if so, who do you have the lean towards?
So I have JaVale 4.5 points behind Monty Morris. Obviously, JaVale $800 cheaper. Just coming out of the sim, Monty Morris was a more optimal play. And if I were playing, I think taking a stand on Monty Morris over JaVale would be a little bit better. I do get a little nervous that JaVale just plays well and they don't have to go to Dwight too. JaVale looked bad in his first rotation and Dwight didn't. And that made it really easy to switch to Dwight coming out of the second half. JaVale still starting. Again, that lineup came out. So that wouldn't shock me if JaVale just played well, that he gets that third quarter run this time. So there is some upside in JaVale now.
Yeah. And it's just in terms of kind of zigging when people zag, and JaVale could be that guy today. So I wouldn't mind taking a shot or 2 with JaVale in a handful of lineups, but that's what I'm trying to figure out as we come down the stretch.
Yeah, a couple more minutes before we get out of here.
And any other final hot takes in terms of Danny Green? So he's just there for the Rockets. He sits in the corner, plays occasional defense, and that's about it. That's Danny Green for you. But do you prefer him to KCP, or any interest in Markieff Morris?
No interest in Markieff Morris. He did not show up all that often in the sim. He gets sorted out of my 150 pretty easily. We're getting a lot of questions of why are we not talking about Kyle Kuzma? I don't really know what there's to talk about him. He's priced in the mid tier. He's not getting all that much ownership, but he's just not an efficient guy to get to in the middle section. He showed up in my sim. Where the hell is he hiding? 17% of the time, so slightly ahead of his projected ownership. You need 26 out of him in the utility spot. You're definitely gonna, if you're taking Kuzma, you're probably gonna need that in a lineup without one of AD or LeBron. I just don't think he's gonna be involved. He's gonna play his 24 minutes and just be passable. It's really hard for me to see him exceeding his salary.
Yeah, I agree there. And he's someone who I'll be looking forward to maybe potentially the next game. If his price were to drop under 5K, I'll be much more excited than 5-6 when I think Paul Millsap is a safer play than Kyle Kuzma. As crazy as that sounds, but that's where we are.
I mean, Milsap might play like 34 minutes today. It's not out of the realm of possibility. If Kuzma plays that kind of minutes, I assume somebody got hurt.
Yeah. LeBron did roll that ankle, and you look even better after rolling the ankle. So that's LeBron for you. But a couple of days out, maybe some swelling if you want to take that narrative. But I doubt it. He'll be just fine.
Yeah, the last thing that I'm going to do is worry about LeBron James' health on a sprained ankle.
Yeah, he'll be just fine. Yeah.
See, like, I would expect him to deal with it the way that Luka did and not the way that Giannis did, where he would just slow it down and become just a guy that's trying to facilitate the entire time, not relying as much on the athleticism. But even still, like, I wouldn't want to have him then. That would suck, but I'm assuming that his ankle is totally fine. Gabriel Castillo seems to think that they should saw it off at the ankle bone because he might be a little banged up. It's LeBron James. That dude's made out of titanium.
Yeah, he's not human. But yeah, I mean, obviously another interesting way to like build your showdown. If you think LeBron has a bad game and you don't have Jokic in there, you can just remove LeBron and put Jokic in there. And that's a way to just have a completely different lineup with a lot of money left over. So that's another way for those who are hand building, trying to just get a little different.
Yeah, if you're not going to, if the ankle injury scares you and you don't think that LeBron is going to be at 100%, getting away from him is honestly like pretty easy to do. The rest of the lineup kind of builds itself, especially like even if you're not using him, even if you're ignoring the captain piece of it, you're just leaving him out of the utility spot. Like if you just don't use LeBron, you know, you're going to need probably two of AD, Murray, and Jokic. There's not, because of how highly concentrated these top four guys are, if you leave one out, it's really easy to know what you have to do after that. You're going to need to spend your salary on at least two of those dudes.
Yep.
That's something I should search, actually. How often, like what the count is for having like two of those guys or three of those guys, or I assume there's no possible way to have four of them.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting to see. Do you have a pick who wins today?
Lakers. I don't think this is much of a series.
No. This is kind of like everything what the Lakers wanted. They just are cruising through the playoffs. Yeah. And they'll be well rested for the finals, seeming like Gordon Hayward has made the difference in Boston. Looked great last night. So
he really did.
We'll see how that series ends up. And Jimmy Butler did not close the game. They kind of pulled him. I don't know why. Did he get hurt? So that'll be interesting to see on tomorrow's Showdown slate.
Yeah. I don't think it's actually us tomorrow. So we get a reprieve from Showdown. But you guys had the goods for 3 straight days. 7:17. I think we're going to wrap this one up and transition over to the NFL Showdown show. Ryan, anything else you want to touch on before we get out of here?
No, just want to wish everyone good luck and enjoy the game, and catch you next time.
There you go, guys. Thank you for joining us. Shout out to No House Advantage for being the presenting sponsor. Go ahead and hit that like button as we get out of here, because honestly, it just helps us out a ton, and it makes me feel great knowing that someone hits the like button. Good luck tonight. Go Lakers, I guess. I just have more of them, and we'll talk to you again sometime soon, since we're the Showdown duo. Good luck, guys.